Anything to the power 0 is equal to 1. X squared plus x squared, we can only add like terms. They are like terms as they have the same base and the same power. So one lot add one lot gives us 2 lots of x squared. If you're multiplying and you have the same base, you keep the base the same and you add the powers. 2 add 2 gives you 4. Look at the difference between 2 and 3. Question 4, if you've got some in brackets raised to a power, you first of all, if you've got a number inside, you raise that number to that power outside. So you're going to have 5 to the power of 3. And I know 5 cubes you need to work out means 5 times 5 times 5, which gives us 125. If there's no power above a letter, we know the power is 1. If you've got a power raised to power in brackets, we multiply the powers. So here, 1 times 3, therefore, will give us n to the power 3. And again, if you've got a power raised to power in brackets, we multiply the powers. 3 times 3 gives us 9. So it's p to the power 9. A negative power means the reciprocal. In other words, doink, to turn upside down. If it's not really a fraction, put it over 1. So turning upside down, I'm going to rewrite my fraction as being 1 over 5 cubed. We always write the power now positive on the bottom. Leaving the 1 over on the top, I know 5 cubed means 5 times 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 5 gives us 125. When dividing, we start by dividing a number at the start. Well, 32 divided by 4 will give us 8. If we're dividing and we've got the same base, we subtract the powers. So 9 take away 3 will give us 6, so it's cubed to the power 6. And if we're dividing same base, if there's no power, the power is 1. Dividing same base, subtract powers, 3 take away 1 gives us 2. The word expand has an x. It reminds us to multiply out the brackets. If you've got a single bracket, we multiply the term directly outside by each term directly inside. 4x times x will give us 4x squared. And 4x times negative 3y, well, 4 times negative 3 gives you negative 12. And x times y, they've got different letters on the end, so negative 12xy. X plus 5 in brackets squared does not mean you square the first term and get x squared and then square the second term, and 5 squared is 25. That's totally incorrect. X plus 5 in brackets squared means our first step is you're going to write the brackets out twice. So you've got double brackets. So it's going to be x plus 5 multiplied by another x plus 5. When expanding our brackets, you can use foil, eyebrows, crab claw, whichever you prefer. We multiply the first term in each bracket together. X times x gives us x squared. My outside terms, x times positive 5 gives us positive 5x. My inside terms, positive 5 times x gives another positive 5x. And my last term, 5 times 5 gives us 25. We now come to collect like terms. Like terms have the same combination of letters and powers. So we've got x squared, no other term ending in x squared. I'll write that down. I've got 5x plus 5x. They both end in x, so they're like terms. That simplifies to give us 10x. And I've got 25 on the end. Factorise is the opposite of expanding. Factorise has a c in it. Reminds us to put into brackets. As I've got 2 terms, we're just going to factorise until we've got single brackets. We always want to take out the highest common factor from both terms. Look at our number. The highest common factor in 4 and 12 is in fact the number 4. Look at our letters now. We've got x squared and we've got single x. Well, the highest common factor in both terms, therefore, is single x. Here you've got y, here you do not have y, so it's not common. We now open our single bracket. What do I times 4x to get back to 4x squared y? Well, I've got the 4, I've got x, I want x squared, so I'm missing a single x, and I'm also missing a single y. Keep the sign, so 4x times what gives you negative 12x? I need negative 3. Next one, if you've got 3 terms, every time you see a plus and a minus, it's a separate term. If you've got a quadratic 3 terms, it's going to factorise into what we call double brackets. As the quadratic starts x squared, each bracket will start with a single x. Our rule is you've got to find 2 numbers that multiply together to give us what's called the number term. And the same terms must still add to give us the number in front of the single letter. The only way to get a negative when multiplying is to have 1 positive and 1 negative in any order. Listing out the factors of 10, we know 1 times 10 is 10 and 2 times 5 is 10. Only one pair will still add to give us positive 3. In this case, give me the 2 and 5. As you want plus 3, it has to be plus 5 and minus 2. Next one, be careful. Part B normally follows on. If you're solving a quadratic, you're actually working out the values. So actually in part 1, we'd always factorise it, but we've already factorised it from the previous part. So I'm going to write my quadratic in factorised form as x plus 5 in brackets x minus 2, but this time it's equal to 0. As it's equal to 0, I'm now solving. I place each bracket equal to 0, which means as long as they start with a single letter, it's just the solutions are just the opposite to the signs. So the opposite of plus 5, one solution is negative 5, and the opposite of minus 2, the other solution therefore is positive 2. Next one. Bob measured a pen, P, to 1 decimal place. Write down the error interval. If you're asked to draw the error interval to start, you always put the letter in the middle. So inequality signs always face the left. And the one on the left-hand side always has an extra line, which means P is greater than and equal to, where here on the right, P is less than. 1 decimal place either side will therefore be 4.4, and the one on the right-hand side to 1 decimal point would be 4.6. An error interval just means I go in the middle of each of them. So what's in the middle of 4.4 and 4.5? That would be 4.45. So that's going to go on the left-hand side. And what's in the middle of 4.5 and 4.6 will be 4.55. That goes on the right-hand side. So P is greater than and equal to 4.45, but P is less than 4.55. Equation of a line, you need to know this off by heart. Equation of a line is y equals mx plus c, where m is our gradient and c is what we call the y-intercept. If 2 lines are parallel, parallel means they've got the same gradient. So parallel lines means they've got the same gradient, and gradient is the letter m. So we think parallel, like train tracks, choo-choo, so much in common, but they never meet. Sad times. The sum of the interior angles, I is inside. So sum of interior angles changes based on number of sides. You need to know this formula off by heart. It's n minus 2 multiplied by 180 degrees, where n represents the number of sides. Hope you are having a nice day. I need a grade 5 for 6th form. Although that's very nice, you're wasting your time. Please stop writing notes to us on the exams. You're wasting your time where you should be just going over your answers to check they're correct. Best of luck. Class of 24, you've got this.